Because now we got to make sure we tell them like we were all here at 7:30. So starting to identify where the problem is.
Right.
Rudy and me, we know what a call time is.
Right.
I don't know how long we can talk about this subject, but
I know, right?
Mm.
The two of us. Just two of us carrying the conversation in general, but I guess we're going to find out.
Yeah. We don't have to do the full hour. It's fine. Just let the conversation end naturally whenever.
Look up 3.5 hours later, we still going in.
Well, I meant we didn't have to do the full hour.
No. I know what you meant. That's what I'm saying. We be like, yeah, we're going to cut it short tonight. And we look up, it's 4 hours later.
Mm-hmm. There's a possibility.
All right. Are you ready?
I've been ready.
All right. Let's do it then. You gonna say it or me?
Oh, the boom shop.
Top of the world. Top of the world. Yeah, top of the world. Top of the world. Yeah, top of the world. Top of the world. Yeah, top of the world. Top of the world. Yeah, top of the world.
All right. Well, welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the first episode of what we call the Worst of the Worst Ones podcast.
I was not consulted on that before that happened. I was not talked to and not approved.
If you tuned in last week, you will realize that the group is possibly breaking up. We're not sure. So while our two lead singers take a break and figure out if they're gonna still be a part of the band or not.
While the choir is off this week.
Right. Me and Terry figure we'll just still come and give our 500 million viewers what they came to see.
You got to. People depend on us.
People depend on us to show up every single week and be the worst. And so that's what we're gonna do. So Terry, how are you doing? I guess I'll definitely give a full explanation of me since we don't have anybody else to talk. But how was your week?
Week was okay. Had my we talked about the very funny Chris Priester, passed away unfortunately.
Did we actually talk about it on the podcast though?
I don't know if we did or not, but a great comedian, great community activist, teacher, coach, very accomplished comedian, passed away unexpectedly and unfortunately at the young age of 52. So we had his funeral this weekend that I attended, and it was very moving. It's been quite a while since I've been to a black church.
Okay.
I don't mean a church.
Right. It was high spirited though.
It was definitely high spirited. But no, it was very moving to see how many people came out. About 400 people there.
Oh wow.
Yeah. It
was at his church, whatever church he went to.
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
Down in Fort Lauderdale.
Gotcha.
But no, it was pretty packed out.
Wow.
Community leaders and people from the school board and
right.
Even a state congresswoman was there.
Oh wow.
And spoke. Yeah. Just because this is how much the guy affected not just the comedy world, but his whole community.
For sure. No, for sure.
So no, but it was very moving. And my dad used to take me to black churches all the time when I was a kid because he would go and guest speak at different churches. So like I know the deal. Like, right. I've been to more than my fair share of black Baptist churches.
Right.
But no, I just, I didn't even think about it till after I left. And I thought, man, there was 400 people there and maybe 8 of them weren't black. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't mean white either. I mean, I'm
Right.
including everybody, like
Right.
Hispanics and
Right.
Nadeem was there. He's Middle Eastern,
Right,
so I'm
right.
including him.
Right.
And I was like, but the service and the eulogy and everything, and all the people speaking, like I just didn't even notice the whole time until we were walking out, and I was like, oh yeah, I was supposed to feel uncomfortable.
Right. Gotcha.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
Shout out Chris Priester, man. R.I.P. You know, definitely a good guy. Definitely, like you said. I mean, I didn't realize his reach outside of the comedy community. I mean, I definitely knew he had one, but as far as a 400-person funeral, I mean, I didn't.
Oh yeah,
it was that.
Yeah, he coached a football team. He was a teacher.
Right. Well, yeah, I knew about the teacher part, but yeah, I didn't.
Yeah, he started a nonprofit organization to help the community, and that group turned an F school into an A school in I think it was like in 18 months.
Right.
Yeah, no, he's a big presence. He left a big mark. So.
Right. Gotcha.
And if you want to learn more about Christopher Priester, or Unc as they call him, you can go to my Facebook page and the Blame Girl podcasts. Last week, we reran because he was a multiple time guest on our other podcast. So we ran that one. We ran one of our favorite ones.
Gotcha.
Off that. If you want to get to know the man, I highly recommend it. It's very entertaining.
Gotcha. Dope. Well,
yep.
What else besides that? Everything's still on track with the moving and everything?
Yeah, we pushed it back a month just because everything was getting way too down on time. So we won't be leaving until like the 13th of April now. So,
gotcha.
But still on track.
Gotcha.
Still got to go up there. My niece is getting married on the 15th of April. So
gotcha.
Got to do it. Mm-hmm.
Dope. And everything's good with the wife?
Yeah. Married life is good life right now.
Not mad at it.
She just heard that and turned around and looked at me.
Gotcha. Well, that's what's up, man. I'm trying to think, what did I do this week? Weeks be jumbled up together. I don't know what I did last week. I mean, I'm fine. I'm sure I had a good week. This
I like it. He said, "I'm sure I had a good week." Yeah. Somebody subbed in for you. I'm sure it was fun.
Like I don't remember anything bad happening specifically, so I feel like it was probably a good week for the most part. But with as far as this week that we're in, I actually will be in South Florida. This Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. Because Thursday I'm coming to town because I'm ultimately coming for a weekend, for a show, but also for a wedding. But Thursday I'm doing like getting my suit, making sure it fits, stuff like that. Friday, I'm going to we got like the wedding rehearsal and stuff, and then Friday night I got the show, and then Saturday is the wedding, and then I come back early Sunday morning. And then
but when you say South Florida, you mean Miami.
Because the wedding and stuff is going to be in Fort Lauderdale, so I'm gonna be back and forth like this. Okay. So the show will be in Miami. The wedding stuff is in Fort Lauderdale. So, so I'll be kind of back and forth, but in South Florida nonetheless. And really, I had booked that show, not even realizing it was the same weekend as the wedding. So it really just worked out because I had to go down there anyways. But
yeah, but you bounce all over the state every week. So.
Yeah. So it'll be a good trip though, and I definitely don't want to be in another wedding anytime soon because being in the wedding is expensive. So it's an honor. It's an honor and all that shit, but at the same time, it's like
I hear you. Like my sister, I remember when my niece got engaged and they were planning the wedding. I remember my sister called me and she goes, she's like, "Hey, between his family and her stepfather, Sean, who's basically her father at this point, between them and like, would you be offended if you weren't in the wedding? And I was like, nope. No, I would not at all. I was like, nope. I just want to put on a sport coat, sit in the aisle, and have fun at the reception. That'd be just fine by me.
1,000%.
Yeah.
1,000.
I said, tell her to save me a dance at the reception. We'll call it even. She's like, great. I was like, that's all I wanted.
Yeah, because being in it, like I said, that shit for the birds. But having about and this is the first one that I'm in as an adult. I've been in a wedding before, but I was like maybe 14 or something. And that was one of my close friends' mom was getting married, and I had to walk her new husband's daughter down the aisle. We was around the same age. But the point I'm making is my mom paid for whatever expenses was then, but now I'm paying for the suit, the shoes, the whatever, the travel, et cetera, et cetera. So it's just, and I'm not even paying for everything. I ain't even participated in none of the groomsmen stuff, like the bachelor trip, party trip. I already told him, I said, I can't make all that. I can make the wedding.
So you missed all the fun stuff and you're just doing all the drag stuff. That's,
I mean, listen,
it's a bummer.
You want me to be in your wedding? This is what you get from who I am right now. I can't afford to do everything.
I mean, but the bachelor party is supposed to be like the payment that you give to your groomsmen.
Right, but they went out the country though. You know what I'm saying? So I mean, it's one thing if it was in Fort Lauderdale, but if they went to wherever, I forgot where.
You mean it'd be another thing if they paid for all the groomsmen, then you would.
Well, that too,
yeah.
Well, that too, but if I'm funding it myself, it at least need to be local, somewhere I can drive to, not have to get on a plane or a boat. So yeah.
You said out of the country. Where was it? Bahamas?
It was one of the islands in the Caribbean. I'm not sure. I forgot which one, but I think DR. They went to the DR. That's where they went.
Okay.
They went to the DR. So yeah. So yeah, I'm like, yeah. I had already told him. I'm like, bro, I ain't got that. I can do the wedding stuff, the reception stuff, the whatever, but all the extra stuff, I have to miss it. So, but he got a big enough. It's enough of us groomsmen. I wasn't missing. They had.
I know why they went to the DR. Because prostitution's legal in the
Well, hey, I missed it either way. So
that's fine.
But yeah, and then I'll be at Villain Friday for a show.
You guys won't be there, but
what do you mean?
The people listening, because
right,
this doesn't come out till next week.
Right. Absolutely, yeah. This is it would have already happened by the time y'all heard it. So
yeah,
for sure. All right. Well, let's get into it then, shall we? We have a topic that has been sitting for about 2 weeks. This is how I titled it because we talked about Jesus and the Players Club, but now we're talking about pastors. And what they can watch as far as content, but I titled it, "Can Pastors Watch the Players Club?" So explain where this even comes from.
Well, this comes from an episode that we had previously, going back. I believe this was our third episode, but we already did the "Can Pastors Watch the Players Club" thing. Basically, what we're talking about now is what is appropriate for a pastor to consume in their entertainment, not necessarily specific to the Players Club. But I mean, I don't know. There's a scripture that says it's not what goes into a man that defiles him, it's what comes out of his heart. So there's an argument to be made there that, and I've heard that scripture used for things like alcohol a lot, like if you drink, it's not necessarily a sin to drink, but if that drinking brings out the demons in you, brings out your negativity, brings out your ugliness, then yeah, that's what's defiling you. So you need to stop so that you can be the person you should be, And you can say the same thing about drugs or Netflix or whatever,
Right.
So it's a very loose kind of subject.
But speaking on what you said specifically about it's not what goes in, it's what comes out. I think most would argue, especially in just say the Christian community, that what goes in is what controls what comes out. That's what determines what comes out, because what is in you is only what can come out of you. And I, and even the eyes are the pathway to the soul or something like that. And most people, that's most people's argument, that it's because you took it in is the reason why it came out, as opposed to, I guess, maybe something just already being in there. I don't know.
Well, I would say that, like, how do I say this? As far as what goes in being the contributing factor of what comes out, I don't agree with that at all. That's like saying if you watch, that Dahmer series on Netflix, you can go out and start eating people.
Right.
Like that doesn't make any sense to me. Not to mention, my father spent, not just watching things, but being involved and going to places and being involved with people that were living very, very sinful lifestyles.
Right.
I mean, he was a Hollywood manager to a couple of guys,
right,
for 20 years, while he was preaching. So if you can imagine their lifestyles and him being around, but it never seemed to, if anything, it kind of made him look at the world a little differently. And he looked at people, at least this is my opinion, I think he looked at people with softer eyes after that than he did when he was a younger man. Because when he's a younger man, when I was 10 and below, like, he was fire and brimstone, Pentecostal pastor. Mm-hmm. This is right, that's wrong. This is right, and that's wrong. And he knew the lines. He knew everything. I mean, we weren't allowed to watch the Smurfs in my house.
Right, I remember you saying that.
Yeah, because the Smurfs had magic, and if magic exists and it doesn't come from God, it must come from the devil. So, like, if I was being raised in this day and age, no, I wouldn't be able to watch Harry Potter. Are you crazy? Like, if he was the same guy. But I think that by absorbing this and seeing the nuances, not just in entertainment or what you're absorbing, of the things you're watching, but in real life, watching people go through this stuff and being involved in it. I think it definitely opened his eyes a little bit, probably made his opinions a little more progressive. Which isn't a bad thing, in my opinion. Some people probably would say it's a bad thing. I'm sure there are those hardliners that are like, no, you sit at home and you watch TVN and and you read your Bible and you listen to BB and CC, and that's it. That's what you do.
Right.
But I don't think that's a very effective way to reach anybody. It's hard to lift someone up when you're on the pedestal. It's much easier if you get down there and give them a boost,
So is it, and I'm saying for you specifically, is it about, when I say you specifically, meaning your outlook on it, is it about, I guess, whether preachers or pastors actually watch that type of content or not, or is it more about just say the purpose in which they're watching? Because from what it sounds like with you, it sounds like you're saying that with the good that can come out of it is because, like, maybe you watch these different shows or whatever, and at least, even if you don't understand, you're at least aware of other people's point of views and stuff like that. So are you saying, like, it's and I guess as long as you have that purpose, then it's a good thing. But if you're watching it just say strictly for entertainment and you just like to see ratchet people fighting or whatever the case may be, like, is that different than watching it and saying, like, okay, these are the people who I want to pray for?
I think I got an answer here. When I was living in Memphis, I had an uncle who used to be very, let's say, worldly, was very, very much secular. And then after some stuff happened in his family, I believe his mom died. He became very religious after that, and he would almost get into, like, it's almost getting to like a pious kind of a thing, where you got to, it's just what you're talking about. I got to do this and I got to say this and I got to project this outward appearance and, you know, but every month he would have fight night at his house and he'd have a bunch of people from the church over and he would rent the UFC fight and he'd cook some chicken or some steaks or something like that. And he'd have everybody over. I would much rather somebody in that position watching a scripted fictional show where people are fighting each other, being ratchet, or, you know, I would much rather that than like, hey, come over and we're all going to watch these two guys beat the hell out of each other for real.
Gotcha.
Yeah, like it's a difference between fiction and reality. You know, there's a difference between watching the Dahmer series and then going, you know, that's a good idea. This guy's making some good points. Like, you know what I mean? Like, there's a huge difference. But then again, you could say that about the UFC too, because like people would come over and watch the fights, but nobody actually started fighting. You know? So
but a lot of people would argue the opposite. They would say they would much rather just say the real fighting, if you will, because that's a sport, as opposed to the, you know, just say the entertainment fighting, so to speak, or the scripted fighting, so to speak. In reality TV is more just say demeaning and, you know, and against, because like if a preacher, if a pastor was a boxer, right? Nobody, well, I can say nobody, but the majority wouldn't make the argument that he is sinning and living this double life because he's beating the shit out of people and preaching. But if he was on a reality show, and I ain't talking about preachers of LA, I'm talking about like Love and Hip Hop or whatever, Housewives of this or whatever, and
even Big Brother,
right,
you know,
like
for all the honkies,
right. But he or she would get scolded. You feel what I'm saying? But to your point, which I low-key agree with, because I don't really too much care for like boxing and UFC stuff like that. And I even cringe now that I'm done playing football, even when I watch football now, because I start to realize like our bodies ain't really made for these type of sports. You know what I'm saying?
Well, actually they are, but they're made for these kind of sports for real. That, you know what I mean? You're made to fight each other, but you're made to fight each other to the death.
For sure. So, right. For sure. Right.
And all of those fighting things, all of the boxing and the martial arts and the taekwondo and the UFC and all this grappling stuff, it's all just reaching back into our instinct. You know, it's the modern day gladiators. It's where they let them fight, but they pull them off each other before they kill one another.
Right.
There's no difference.
But it's the Hunger Games, literally. Like you just watching, you know, people try to kill each other, and it's for your own entertainment. And to your point, like that's actually wrong. You know what I'm saying? Like that's a little like inhumane for that to be acceptable. But in society, that wouldn't be deemed just say sinful or whatever. But people would say, "Oh, you on this reality show?" Like, "Oh no, that's." You serving the devil. You trying to serve, you know, two masters or whatever case may be. But in my opinion, I think they're at least the same, if not if they are separate. I think the reality TV is worse.
Oh, for 100%, because reality TV is not reality nor TV.
I mean, excuse me. Well, I meant to say I think the real fighting is worse. But as far as the whatever, but the reality TV, it's shitty too.
Well, reality TV is not reality or TV. It's a show that's being produced,
right? And
it's not necessarily scripted, but neither are some movies. Yeah, some movies they just let them improv.
Right, I'm about to say it's unscripted because they don't have lines, but they're definitely put in
we're
in scenarios. Right.
We're pushing you this way or that way, and then when the real tragedy is when they start editing. Because then they've got hundreds and hundreds of hours of footage, and they can edit it to do any. You could take 500 hours of footage from like Louis Farrakhan and make him look like a white supremacist if you wanted to. That's what you can do. That's what the magic of editing. So I mean, it's absolutely to me, it's so hypocritical. It, for people to, like you say, give them problems over what they're watching. It's like you're watching the same thing, if
Right.
not worse. So if it's not corrupting you, then why do you think it's corrupting them? It's not having respect for another person's intelligence.
Right.
But
see, but the argument is with entertainment across the board, because that's just like, like, what have you seen your pastor at a certain musical artist concert? You know what I'm saying? Like, is that just entertainment, or is that them letting that sinful stuff get into their heart? Because this is the real argument. People feel like if you expose yourself to it, that's how it gets in you. That's why so many people are just say like against gay imaging and stuff like that. I'm talking about, like, especially like in the Christian community, because they feel like if my kids see it, then that'll make them then just say want to do it or whatever the case may be. So people really believe that.
Oh,
you know
no,
what I'm
I've
saying?
heard
that
this. Yeah, I've been hearing this my whole life.
Right.
Back in the 90s, they would say that stuff on the news.
Right.
Like it was, parents are concerned this week that, this new gay movement is going to be corrupting their children. That was the whole thing, was like, oh, if we let these gays be out and open and have their own side, like they're going to turn our kids gay.
Right.
And which is the dumbest argument I have ever heard in my life, because nobody had to convince me to be straight.
Right.
And being attracted to women has ruined my life multiple times. You know what I mean? Oh, to be gay, what it wouldn't, you know what I mean? Like what I wouldn't give, but I can't, I can't, I gag when I brush my teeth sometimes. So I can't, they won't let me in. And plus they don't dress well enough. But
right.
I mean, that's so stupid. That's like saying that somebody had to convince you to be straight. And it's like, no, we had a gay kid in my church. Everyone knew he was gay. Knew he was. And he was just a kid. Well, he's just a kid, right? We were friends with his family. They had immigrated over from Ireland, and we were all friends. And I used to stay at his house, and we were buddies and played G.I. Joes and all that. But by the time when he hit puberty, right? And I was a couple years behind him, so I hadn't hit puberty yet, but he had. By the time he hit puberty, yes, he started kind of inching his way towards me. Like, hey, maybe we should try some stuff, or you know what I mean?
Right.
And I was like, nah.
Right.
Yeah, I was like, nah, I ain't about it. But it didn't stop him from trying. And this was, I don't know, this would have been like 1990. You know what I mean? 91, maybe.
Right.
Right at the height of all the, gay fear, all the homophobia.
Right.
So I can definitively say, without exception, that no, they can't turn your kids gay if they're not. But it just kind of highlights that Christian fear, like the worst thing that can happen to you is if your kid turns out to be gay. Yeah. But
piggybacking with that, I'm saying I've grown up, just say, especially as a black male, who just say our most of our just say genre of music of choice is hip hop. Growing up, it was not only just say the Harry Potter, don't want that influence, so don't read those books, the gay imagery, whatever like that, but even more so than both of those, it was if you listen to that type of music, you're gonna be a thug. You know what I'm saying? And even like growing up, like, my parents, they were skeptical about me wearing braids or whatever, whatever case may be, because they didn't want any little image that made somebody, whatever, whatever the case may be. And it's but going back to just say the music or the movies or the whatever, well, not even just my parents, but just in my upbringing, the adults that I were around, like the narrative was way more of not watching this at a certain age, or not seeing this, or not listening to this, or whatever the case may be, because they don't want that to influence you to just say be curious about it or want to do it or whatever. And even though, just say you can watch the Dahmer series and not want to eat people, you may then watch somebody else series and want to do that. You feel what I'm saying? And we can be fair to say that, people can be influenced by what they see, even if it's in a good way. You see somebody who worked hard from the ground up and bought them, a big house or whatever. Like, even seeing that can influence you. But I guess going back to the topic at hand, like with the passages and stuff, are they more rooted and grounded in God, where they can see these things and handle it, or are they even at a point where they have to manage what they see? And I ain't talking about watching like porn. I'm saying, like, but even if it is a movie that has a sex scene, or a movie that's with drugs, or a movie that may trigger, just say something they used to do back in the day that they thought they were delivered from, and realize like, oh man, I kind of missed that. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah.
And they start swinging back the other way. Like, I'm sure that can happen. I can't say that it has happened, because I haven't talked to anybody personally, but I'm sure that can happen.
Hey y'all, sorry to interrupt, but we have a few church announcements. Follow us on Instagram at The Worst Ones PK. New content coming soon. We also have a TikTok at The Worst Ones PK. No content yet, but continue to check us out. If you want to, when you listen to our podcast, you can find us on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, wherever you find your podcast. Just make sure you type in The Worst Ones Podcast and you'll find us. And when you get there, make sure you like, you comment, you subscribe, and you share. Thank you to our 500,422 followers. We love you so much. Now, back to the show.
Well, it can, but you're talking about the difference between consuming a piece of entertainment and idolizing somebody. Mm-hmm. Idolizing somebody can definitely influence you, because if I listen to a Lil Wayne album, mm-hmm. I'm probably not going to get a face tattoo. But
right.
But if I listen to my first Lil Wayne album and I become, consumed by it, where I got to listen to his back catalog, I got to get his old street tapes, I got to get, you know what I mean? And I'm really getting into it. Yeah. Then 5 years from now, I might be walking around with something on here. I don't know, but that's the difference between, it's like raising a kid, but you're raising yourself, if your kid watches G.I. Joe, like I did when I was a kid, that's one thing. But if your kid watches G.I. Joe and then plays G.I. Joe and wants everything to be camouflaged and likes the mentality and likes the, collects all the items and does all the stuff, yeah, he's probably going to join the military when he gets older. And I know that because I was that kid. I used to go and do recon on the neighbors. Like I really did. I'd get, I had some camouflage and I'd put my camouflage on. I'd go hide in the bushes. And I have my rations, No, I did. I had my rations, which was to my 7-year-old brain, it was carrots that I put in the food processor and grind it up. And then that was my rations. And I'd go and I'd sit in there for like 2 hours, and I'd sit in the bushes and just watch people go up and down the street. And it's like, I'm doing recon for a mission, then you might want to look at it and try and get involved. And right. I did right after 9/11. I tried to join the Marines. So,
gotcha.
So yeah, kind of full circle on
this. I feel like even with stuff like that, like my sincere feeling is that whatever is inside of you, I do think that if you may not be aware of it, but when you do become aware of it because of exposure, whatever that looks like, whether it's somebody in your neighborhood that whether it's a movie that you see, whether it's a song that you listen to, like I sincerely feel like it's going to bring out what's already inside of you. Just like when people say like, I only did this because I was drunk.
Yeah.
Like the truth behind that is drunk.
You did it because you wanted to do it.
The drunk gives you the boldness. Absolutely. Like that was all you already wanted to do that. You already, even if you never thought about it deep enough, like you knew in your mind, like if that opportunity ever presented itself where you felt like you could have an excuse or you wouldn't get caught or whatever the case may be, you would do it. And then you get drunk and then boom, you do it.
Yeah. Oh, sorry, wrong hole, honey. I'm drunk. It's crazy. It's like, no, I wasn't there.
Right.
Just the excuse. Yeah, I know.
And like I said, and sometimes it may bring something out of you that you may not have realized that you would have done. But then after you do it, like you realize, oh, boom, that's a part of me. I may need to be drunk in order to do it, but at the same time, like it's still in me. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah. The biggest one that people use that for is infidelity. You get caught cheating. You're like, honey, I was drunk and this and that. Yeah, you were drunk, which means you now had the courage to do the thing you really wanted to do. You know?
Absolutely.
Because I've been drunk plenty of times, and I've been married now twice, and I have never been so drunk where I said, I've got to have another woman if I didn't want to have another woman.
Right. No, for sure.
Right. Yeah. So I agree with that.
There's many things that people haven't done while drunk, and nobody had to convince them not to do it. You just didn't do it because you didn't want to do it. It wasn't even on your mind. But the things that were on your mind, like the drunkenness is just telling you, like, man, just do that shit. Fuck that. and you just go and do it. But I'm saying, so it's to me, it's the same concept with movies or whatever else the case may be. Now, the danger with that is it can probably expose something that you may not have realized was inside of you.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like you've been like, oh shit, like I ain't even considered that. But now that I've seen this movie or seen this whatever, and it could be a subject that is, I listen to a podcast, whatever. It don't have to be even something visual, something you heard, whether it's through conversation, whether it's through music, like, and it can influence you in a way that just say is not Christian like or not whatever. And that same thing can happen with a pastor. But at the same time, in my opinion, I think that especially a pastor who's in leadership and all this stuff, I think it's better for you to do something that will expose whatever your weakness is. And not that it has to expose it to the world, I'm saying, but expose it to you. So that you can be aware and deal with it, and it did not catch you off guard with something that happens publicly. You feel what I'm saying? Like, because now you at least know, like, oh, I struggle right here, like, and I didn't realize that, and now I can deal with that, as opposed to, like I said, that struggle involving somebody else, and now it's a big scandal or whatever the case may be. But that pastor has to be thinking like that at the same time, because if you're just watching it just for entertainment, and then you're now exposed to something that you didn't realize was inside of you, you probably just gonna lean into that because it was just entertainment. But if you're watching stuff, and even if it is for entertainment, but you're still aware, like, okay, if any little thing catch me, I'm gonna address it. Like, I'm not gonna just let it sit on me. I'm gonna address it. Like, oh, okay, I like that too much, so maybe I should whatever. But if I do think, pastor or not, if you just sit in it, you're gonna definitely lean more into it.
Well, maybe. And that might be the case, but it depends. And we come right back to, this is personal responsibility and your personal constitution of self. I think a great example would be the former Vice President, Mike Pence. I think is a great example of this because I've known people like this in reality. I've known people in my life like this, where he calls his wife mother. Like, not in a creepy "you're my mom" way. They're just very, very conservative, very, very traditional. Right. And that's, that's the way that people used to talk back in, I don't know, the 50s and 40s. Mm-hmm. Okay, mother. Okay, father, or, whatever they would say. Gotcha. But like he said famously, and he's very religious. Obviously, he's very, very Christian, very, very religious. And he says he won't even go to dinner with a woman who's not his wife. He won't be in the same room alone with another woman who's not his wife. Now, to me, I understand what he's trying to say. He's like, I won't even put myself in the position. To me, that just says I can't be left in that position. Because if you put me in that position, I might fail. That's what I hear. I hear I might fail if you put me in that position. I might do something I don't want to do. And as much as I don't align with him politically, but you do kind of have to respect that on some level, if that's the case. Now, personally, I don't think it is, and I think it's just political posturing. But if he did have a problem there, and he says, you know what, I have a problem. I might cheat on my wife if I'm left to my own devices. So I'm taking a stand, and I'm saying I'm never going to put myself in the situation to fail. I'd respect him more if that was the case. I don't think it is, but if that was the case, I would respect him more if he said, you know, I'm a human man. I'm flawed. I don't want to put myself in a position to be able to fail. So if you're that kind of person that goes down those rabbit holes, like you said, and can get lost that way, yeah, you have to self-regulate. You know, some people can have a few drinks and then go to bed, and then other people have to drink all the drinks until they're gone, and they have to go get more. We're all different. Right. You know, we're all different. So you kind of have to have that responsibility, that self-regulation, that says, you know, I don't want to mess this up. I don't want to mess my life up. I don't want to make bad choices. So I'm going to stay away from all that. Now, the problem I think comes in with this is because you're talking about a church full of people, and they're all different. So here it is. You have, you know, Miss Oda May over here, you know, Miss Ola May here in the front row. She says, I never drink alcohol, ever. Because maybe she can't. Maybe she can't just have a glass of wine with dinner. Maybe she has to have the whole bottle and then go get another one. You don't know. But just like I would have sympathy for her in her situation, she should have sympathy or understanding, at least, of other people who say, well, I don't have to do that. I can just have one glass of wine and be done, and that's fine. You know, right. Like I'm not like you, and you should have sympathy for both cases, and you should be empathetic to both people. But I don't think that's how it shakes out most of the time. I think most of the time it's like, well, I never do it, so you shouldn't do it. And it becomes very judgmental, and then you start in with that pious nature of like, well, if I can never drink, then why do you have to drink? And it's like, well, because I don't have the problems you have, you know?
Right.
Because I'm sure that person, that pastor, whoever we're talking about, I'm sure they have their own demons they got to battle and their own monkey on their own back that they got to face. So don't, you know, it's like I always say about most things, just mind your own damn business. You know what I mean? Until it starts affecting you, you're just, because how is that any different than watching TV or a reality show? You're watching someone else's reality day to day, Sunday by Sunday.
Right.
You're watching their reality. So, you know, where's the empathy in that? Because you're just watching their reality go by, making your little critiques and your notes and your judgments and your this and your that. And it's like, you know better. No better at all. The fact that you're paying attention to what I'm having to drink with dinner tells me that I'm your reality show. You're watching me now. I think that happens in a lot of churches, especially when it comes to the staff and the, you know, the preacher and the family and the upper staff. Yeah, they're definitely watching like it's a show, like it's their reality show. But instead of being Big Brother or Love and Hip Hop, it's Sunday morning at the Baptist church.
Right. So going back to what he said about what he was talking about as far as not being in the room alone without, you know, if it's not his wife or whatever, being in a room with a woman without, if it's not his wife. Like for me, when I hear that, I don't even necessarily hear a man who's even just say thinking about himself and whether he actually feels like he would actually do it or could do it. But if you just look at like the history of man, and I've recently like been like talking to people about this because I'm like, I don't care what anybody says. Like we can shame people, we can down them, we can hang it over their head and all the other things, especially with men. But it's obviously hard to be in a position of power and not, like I said, especially if you're just say married or whatever or with somebody and not experience infidelity. And the reason why I say that is because if it was that simple, it wouldn't happen so many times since the beginning.
Yeah.
You feel what I'm saying? Like it literally, like even the men, David, like, after God's own heart, whatever, like there's always some level of, because of a woman and just say sexual or whatever, like it continues to happen over and over and over for millenniums to come. And it's like, so obviously it's not that easy to not do, if you will. Like, so, and the people who just say we've never heard about it happening with, they've either never done it somehow or never got caught. But either way, even if that is, hey, I'm going to make sure that I'm never in a room alone with, with a woman that's not my wife or whatever the case may be, like, you got to really be thinking about that in order to be intentional about that, because it, like I said, it can happen just like that. And I think that can happen whether you watch a movie or not. You know what I'm saying?
100%.
But if it's inside of you to do that, watching a movie about whatever can definitely just say influence that part of your spirit. Mm-hmm. And so I think as human beings, I think it's with any content, there's always a level of rationing that needs to happen, like what you take in, what you don't take in. Like, cause even for me, like a lot of people who really know me know I don't be watching fight videos, I don't watch violent stuff, I don't watch people getting shot, I don't watch I don't be wanting to see stuff like that in my mind. You know what I'm saying? But there's people who do. You feel what I'm saying? And
yeah, but I mean, but it's just the whole.
No, but what I'm saying is, for me personally, it's not because I feel like I want to do that stuff. I'm saying like I don't want to see that. Like I'm just not interested in that. So what I'm saying is, even when it comes down to your spiritual life and watching movies or whatever the case may be, like there can always be some rationing. But the point I'm getting at is, I think ultimately for the pastors and just say determining of whether they can watch something secular or listen to something secular or not, I think that answer is always going to rest on the perception of the people. Because if your perception is my pastor don't need to be watching Players Club, even though I can, then that pastor is going to be in the wrong.
Well, who's making the rules?
But that's what I'm saying.
Is God making the rules, or is the congregation making the rules?
But that's my whole point. That's my whole point. It's resting on the perception of the people, because it's because a lot of Christians in general do or don't do things based off of what they feel like people are going to say about them or how they going to judge them or whatever the case may be. Which, once again, this is the root of this podcast. You know what I'm saying? Is to break that stigma of sitting here worrying about what the church community will say about me if I do what I actually do. I'm not saying go and try to do something you don't do and whatever. I'm saying, like, if this is something that you do, and not even that you have to tell your whole business, but if somebody from the church community found out, you shouldn't have to be in a place of fear that, it's about to hit the blotter, you know what I'm saying? And now I'm about to get it from the judgmental saints, as opposed to, okay, boom, everybody found out, but it's more of and you can't control that with all of the world, because the world itself is going to be judgmental. But we should at least be able to have comfort in, just say, the church community, the Christian community, the Christ following community, to be able to at least have each other back that way. And if you deal with judgment from the world, you deal with judgment from the world. But the reason why pastors, this is my last thing, the reason why pastors can't watch the Players Club is not because God is necessarily saying they can't. It's because the perception of what they're supposed to do or not do from the people is what's answering this question.
But that's all. The whole argument is just kind of bullshit, to be honest, because it's you're basically saying that God doesn't rule the church, the members do, and they make
no.
I'm
they
not
do.
about
No,
you. I'm not talking about
yeah. I got you.
And just the idea that watching something or consuming a movie or a television series or this or that can change or that's going to mean the difference between you falling or not. I've talked about my father's fall on here before. And if you were to ask him in the entire 10-year span that he was at that church, if you were to ever ask him, because you got to remember, this was in the 80s. This was in the time of like Swaggart, like, Jimmy Swaggart, his big failing. And
I don't know what Swaggart is.
Well, he was a big televangelist, and he got wrapped up in. There was a couple big scandals back then of people getting wrapped up in, affairs with other people, or, siphoning money out of their church, or this or that. A couple of them went to prison, but I remember he would say all the time, he's like, that's never going to happen to me. And he meant it, buddy, with full conviction. He's like, that'll never be me. I'll never have to worry about being one of those guys. And then he messed up, because people are fallible. Now, this was back when we had, 6 channels on the television, no internet, no streaming. I mean, my television still had a knob on it where you just like turn, click, to one channel to the other.
Right.
So, and to think that any kind of influence from the outside, I mean, here's a man who was so devoted that his wife couldn't wear makeup to church, or pants, or this or that, like, this is where he came from. There was no music at his wedding, there was no music, there was no dancing at his own wedding, because it just wasn't done in that particular religion at that particular time.
Right.
But the rules evolve, but the attitude doesn't evolve. And when I say the attitude, I mean from the members. That attitude of, you have to be better than the rest of us all the time in every aspect. Yeah, I watched Dahmer, but you're not supposed to watch Dahmer,
right.
Unless you're praying for the victims. Not to mention, my father saw worse things in reality by being a pastor. Worse things in reality that you'll ever see on any television show. When he came back from missionary trips to like Nigeria, and he told me some stories that have stuck with me to today. I can think about them and they curl my blood to think about little children that would go they had these screens, and they would go and they would find animal dung, right? Like animal shit. And they would put them in the screens, they'd take them down to the water, and they'd sift them to try and get pieces of undigested fruit, that was still like undigested, and so that they could wash it and eat it. Like, to me, that's a way more horrific story.
Right.
Him going to Haiti, and little kids, they're making cookies out of dirt, and that's what they would eat. Or being down in Dade County after Hurricane Andrew, when the whole city of Homestead was just flat, just demolished, and there's bodies everywhere, and emergencies and people sobbing. Like, all that to me is way more inducing of a fall than watching the Players Club as some fictionalized bullshit Hollywood thing. I mean, that's just, to me, that's just nonsense. That's other people projecting their own insecurities onto somebody in a position of authority. They're saying, well, that would make me want to cheat on my wife, so obviously it'll make you. Like, come on, man. That's not how anything works.
So then maybe we need to have a part 2 to this same topic, because I think we've answered the question, or at least spoke our feelings on whether it has an effect on you or not. But I think there are some people who still may make the argument that, I guess, should a Christian in general, or even a pastor, support, just say, secular entertainment? Like, because maybe it doesn't affect you, maybe it doesn't make you sin, but you're still supporting, just say, something that you preach against, if you will. So I think maybe there's a part 2 to this.
Maybe, but I mean, this is a modern day, so we have to deal with things in a modern day way. So, like, I don't know. It's like, then you got to analyze the difference between going and buying a ticket to the Players Club at the movies or just waiting for it to come on Netflix. If you're waiting for it to come on Netflix, you're not supporting it in any way. You know, you didn't get Netflix just
Well, yeah, you are. If you give it a review on your account or whatever, like,
not really.
Yeah.
Not really. No.
You think Netflix would put it on their streaming service for it to not be viewed?
I think that Netflix put it on their streaming service because they have to have things for people to watch. So they take chances.
Right.
Well, that's right.
And if people don't watch it, they'll take it off.
And they'll take it off. Exactly. But they when they buy these licensing rights to put things on their streaming services, they're always timed, unless it's their intellectual property, which will stay on there forever. But
sure.
Unless it's their intellectual property, you're always buying. It's like they're renting this content to show on their thing. And It doesn't matter if it gets 1 million views or 10 million views. That's still going to expire at the end. But it's like you didn't buy Netflix to watch the Players Club. You bought Netflix to watch Netflix, but now the Players Club on there. I don't really think you're supporting it.
But Netflix isn't a Christian-based subscription movie thing, whatever. Like, everything, majority, I should say, the things on there can be considered secular in some way or another. So it's not like you're on this Christian-based thing and then there's just one Players Club on there. Like, there's a app full of Players Clubs, and not that has to be the same movie. I'm just saying secular stuff. Just like if you went on, on Spotify or iHeart or whatever, like, yeah, you can go to the Christian stations, but that don't mean, like, you're still supporting it if you listen to it or view it. Like, that's the point of it being on there. So they're like, okay, people like this movie, so we're going to license it, buy it, whatever, and we're going to get people to get our streaming app because they like this movie or whatever the case may be. So, like, it's still a support. Like, you're definitely supporting it if you watch it or listen to it.
I don't think so, because I mean, in the internet age, you don't even have to try to find wicked shit to absorb. Like, you really don't even have to try. You can find it anywhere for free today.
Right.
Now.
I'm not saying you have to pay for it if you watch it. I'm saying
what I'm saying is it's a hyperbolic question of, are you supporting it? No, it's going to be out there, and the people who want it will know where to get it. And I think that all of these conversations are interesting. I think they're very thought-provoking to have, but at the end of the day, just mind your own damn business. And if you think that watching something should be bad, then don't watch it. But also don't judge anybody else for watching it either, because they might not think it's bad for them.
I agree.
If you want to be a good Christian the way that you want to, be that. But stop judging others. I'm pretty sure this book specifically mentioned several times not to do that.
I agree 100%. But this is my question. If the people who watch our podcast, if they come to YouTube and watch this episode right here, are they not supporting our podcast? they're watching it for free. But is that not supporting our podcast?
Well, yeah, but in YouTube it's different because views matter, subscriptions matter, all this matters.
So I'm saying that you don't think views and subscriptions matter on Netflix?
Not when it comes to like a movie, but if it came to a television show, then yes. Yes, then it matters whether you're getting a second season or not. I'm in Players Club mode here.
There's so many movies that are not on Netflix because nobody would watch them. But the ones that people would watch, those are the ones that are making money. So they're going to make that licensing money because they're going to watch it. So
until you put it on there, you don't know whether they're going to watch it or not.
But what I'm saying is, but if you are a pastor and you watch it, you're now showing you're one of the people in the algorithm showing Netflix that we watched this movie and this supports this movie to now have a longer run or a longer licensing or whatever the case may be. So it's still support.
Oh, okay. Yeah, fine. It's support in the most meaningless way, but yeah, sure.
It's not meaningless. That's what determines if
they've already bought it. If it's on there,
how long do you stay? Do we bring you back? Because there's some movies that come on and then never come back. There's some that come on that they take it away because they want you to miss it, and then they bring it back because it's a bigger movie. I'm telling you, man.
Oh, okay. I get what you're saying, but I think that's the most minimalist part of this entire argument.
No. It's not about the argument. I said, because today I feel like we just covered does it affect you or not, and I think we've stated our point on that. But I do think that there's more to talk about in the sense of the whole support system thing. But as far as supporting the content or not. But all right, well, so we'll just go straight to you.
Oh, church announcement? All right. It's at Terry Wayne Comedy on all social media platforms. And the book is on Amazon, Unclaimed Ashes. Get your copy while there's still plenty.
Yeah.
Because there are plenty. Y'all ain't buying this enough.
There are plenty.
Yeah.
I'm going to make sure I cop one, man.
It's fine.
No, I am. I'm going to make sure I cop one.
No. I want them. But
I, as your co-host of 2 years, I should have one.
Well, it's gonna be adapted into a screenplay, so maybe you can just watch the movie in about 6 or 7 years
and support it.
Yeah. Well, yeah. You buy a ticket to that. I'll make sure. In fact, you get your daddy to buy his church tickets.
All right, and then but of course, follow us at The Worst Ones PK on Instagram, The Worst Ones Podcast on YouTube, where you're already watching this, or if you're listening to this, it's the same thing. The Worst Ones Podcast. Like, comment, subscribe, and share. And then if they are still a part of this or not, still follow them. Shout out to Princess Kels 51, even though her page is still private. And then at JRiana, JRIANA _. Yeah. That's it.
And don't get confused. That's not the real Rihanna. That's J Rihanna. Just in case you were getting confused.
I mean, it's not. She is the real one. She's just not the singer one. But that's her actual middle name.
I get it.
Like it's her and the singer's middle name. Neither one of their names, first name is Rihanna.
No, I get it. I understand.
She's just not the popular one. I got you.
Just not the known one.
Right, not the famous one. Right.
Yeah.
Gotcha. All right. Well, we are the worst of the worst ones.
Still didn't approve that name.
Even though this outro was about to play all 4 of our names, but it's just us two. Terry and Rudy show.
All Ladies got stuff to do.
Top of the world. Top of the world. Yeah, top of the world. Top of the world. Yeah, top of the world. Top of the world. Yeah, top of the world. Top of the world. Yeah, top of the world.